Hello, good morning, happy Monday to everybody. Kimbro, Jason, so glad to have you here, and everybody watching out in YouTube land, welcome. Wow, we made it. We made it. We made it to August 1st. We are now kicking off another new month. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of people commenting on July being a very trying time. You know? And for a lot of people, it has. There's just been a lot of stuff going on. But one of the things, too, that I've noticed is that this has also been a time when a lot of people are doing some reflection on making changes, doing some different directions, doing a different scope of just kind of where we're going. You know, what are we going to do in the last portion of this year? And what are some things that we're going to change? Well, one of those things is what I'm going to talk to you about today, and it's how we communicate. Marwan, welcome. Deanna, welcome. Communication. Communication is it's one of the number one breakdowns that we have in our relationships, in our romantic relationships, in our work relationships, with family dynamics, communication. Because communication, we think that we think that we're conveying exactly what we want to say. We think that we're engaging in communication with other people in the way that we're wanting to or needing to, but we don't. We don't. And that's part of the problem, because a lot of times, especially in romantic relationships and close friendships and so forth, we get to a point sometimes where we start to assume. We will assume an answer. We will assume what somebody's going to say. We assume what somebody is thinking or what their feelings are. We start to lose sight now, especially with the age of, texting and doing all that. Well, you miss tonnage. You miss the inclination of how somebody is saying something. You miss the body language. You miss the facial expression. You miss all of these things. So whenever you're just sitting here trying to have a communication, you're doing it all on text. Well, you're leaving both parties now open to what am I picturing right now? What am I creating as to the nature or the style or the energy of what is being conveyed to me? And are we being cautious about how we are communicating to other people? If you're having a serious conversation, I'm going to tell you right now, try not to do it over text. At the bare minimum, have a phone call. The importance of good communication skills cannot be overstated. Communication is key to any relationship that you're in. Equipping yourself with strong communication skills is one of the most valuable things that you can do for yourself, and it can vastly enrich social interactions and just you and your world in general, because you'll be able to come across clearly. Working on improving your communication skills, it's a journey. It's simply because with it, you're opening up new social horizons, new situations, new aspects. So how do we improve our communication skills? Really ensuring that we speak to the world with that clarity and also with confidence. So I'm going to share 4 key aspects with you. And the first one is the most important, and that's listening. Listening. Listening is really the single most important factor in becoming a clear and confident communicator. This is a key communication skill and something that, so few of us are experts at. Actually listening to people's words, to their nuances of intonation and hints of emotion, it means that you're going to be much more likely to understand where they're coming from and what they're trying to convey. On top of this, focused engagement in this way, it's good for just social understanding and the development of tolerance. So if you find yourself in a conversation in which you've kind of stopped listening and you're just kind of waiting for a break in the noise in order to speak, then stop and rethink your priorities. Actively listening and engaging fully in the conversation is great for the confidence and personal clarity. Firstly, good listeners are always respected. Think about that. it's an act of generosity towards the speaker. And then secondly, you'll feel in control because you're going to understand the conversation and the finer points of that conversation. And knowing the finer points means that you'll be much more able to construct a coherent and relevant response, or even ask, relevant questions. Listening, we stop listening, or we start doing the assumption thing I was talking about. And then, so what we're listening to is our own interpretation of what this person was trying to say, or what's going to happen next, or what's going to be said next. Well, when we assume, then you start having that conversation in your own head for the other person. That's not you listening. That is not you being productive in that conversation. The next thing is self-analysis. Now, unfortunately, simply improving our listening skills cannot heal all communication problems. There's a number of other reasons, such as poor self-confidence and why you find your conversations might, prove unsatisfactory, And a good exercise is to write yourself an open list. Don't show it to anybody, That way you can be completely honest. But make yourself a list about what you find uncomfortable about your interactions and the negative feelings that you might experience after you've left a conversation. Now, even if you just do this mentally, but just think about it. Keep that list, or that mental list, and the next time that you come out of a conversation feeling unhappy, write down what you feel went wrong. All the time remembering that the points that we're talking about, listening. This way, you're going to be able to conceptualize some of the issues involved in your communication problems, because it might be how you are conveying something, but it also might be, are you listening fully to that situation in order to actually have a productive conversation? Maybe you need to work on some aspects of self-confidence. And if so, well, immerse yourself in other situations where you're going to be more social, needing to talk more, having to really exercise that, because that's going to improve your confidence. And then you're able to tackle the communication problem more at the source rather than try to deal with it on kind of a surface situation. The next thing is taking responsibility for your words. We have to think really clearly what we're going to say. Now, it is important that we want to think, how is this going to be perceived? How is the listener going to hear what I'm saying? And are you saying it with tone? Are you angry? Are you mad? Are you frustrated? Are you sad? Are you happy? How you convey and what you show forth, that makes a big, big difference. That's why it's important that don't do serious conversations just over text. Then you're assuming that the other person is just going to know what you mean. And now, sure, the people that we know very well, they can say a statement. And it might be the same statement they say verbally to our face, and we see it in text, and our brain immediately accommodates that. But that's not always a good practice to keep yourself in, because now you're leaving room for there to be that miscommunication, that misunderstanding. An unconfident speaker usually peppers their speech with a lot of maybes, buts, I'll try, I think, I hope. And it serves to kind of muddy your message, and as such works in a vicious circle, reducing confidence, which in turn reduces clarity, which in turn reduces that cycle. It's just going to keep going on and on and on. Next time you go into a conversation, make a conscious effort to show commitment to your proclamations. Believe in your words and make strong statements. That doesn't mean that you're going to seem bullyish or, it just means that you're happy to stand behind your words as you speak them. If you don't presume to speak for others, for example, saying, we think, if you're a good listener and prepared to learn from others, then this positivity of speech becomes something to be admired. Not just in yourself, but other people towards you, and you towards other people. Now, the next one, and which is my final point, so hang in there with me, but aiming your speech. Now, all communication in whatever form has an aim. You speak to be heard. and so cause a reaction in the listener. Knowing why you're entering a conversation if you initiate it and what you want your words to convey once you're in it means that you can focus clearly, keeping all irrelevant details out of the mix. As well as this, taking a step back and looking at your intentions before you speak means you'll be more able to spot negative aims, such as wanting to be hurtful. It's quite simple. Negative aims create negative conversations, right? So guarding against this can improve your experience of conversation to no end. This is especially useful if you have a habit of kind of blurting out horrible things when you're in a fury or under pressure and you're mad and you're frustrated and all these things. Well, I've been there. We've all been there. We're human. We make mistakes sometimes. We get overly flustered. We get mad. We get angry. Wow, we vent or lash, But we got to think about that more clearly. Communication is never just straightforward. Subtext, lie below subtext, And that's to say nothing of those thoughts that people leave in their minds. In many ways, that is what makes life exciting. After all, we're not robots, right? Ultimately, perfect communication in terms of fully understanding others is impossible. Like to be 100% all the time in every communication. But that's not to say that there's no point in trying to be a good communicator. It's quite the opposite. Developing your communication skills means you get near and near that impossible goal, which is to understand what it is to be another person. Think about that a minute. See, a lot of times, and I deal with this a lot in couples counseling, we'll get to a point where we realize, okay, first off, communication is the problem. Which communication is one of the number one reasons why couples break up. Because they're not listening. There's not a program of listening and actually thinking about communication. But the other problem is we start communicating sometimes to other people thinking they have the exact same mindset we do, thinking they should have the same mindset we do, thinking they have the same heart we do, they have the same emotions we do. You cannot function that way. You cannot maintain clear and healthy communication if you think that everybody has to be exactly at the same point you are in what you're saying. Because we are all different. We all communicate different. We all process different. We all are going to have different tones and different reflections and all of these things that we have to be mindful about. But that's what helps us learn other people. I love meeting new people that are opposite of me. Like, I love meeting people that are, they might just have a strange way of talking or whatever. I love those moments because it allows me to learn something new about other human beings. But it also helps me broaden my approach or my direction of how I receive communication, but also how I state communication. So it's important that we really tackle how do we talk and how do we listen. When you can really sit and listen, I know, and for some people that's hard. You might be in an argument or having whatever with your loved one, and you're already feeling a little bit edgy. You're already feeling frustrated. You need to get your word out there. They might say something. You're like, they're not getting it, and you did this, and you did that. No, you can't. You got to exercise trying to just bite your tongue a minute, take a breath, but don't shut down and wall everything out just because you're not getting to speak. You got to let them talk. Even if it's upsetting you. Control your situation. Control how you're receiving this information so that you can clearly put together what your response is going to be, which is going to help you elevate into a deeper, more meaningful conversation. Even if it's an argument, don't get into the point of speaking out of anger. Now, sometimes you're going to speak out of frustration. That's normal. That's human. We all are going to be there sometimes. But we don't have to react in a vicious, mean, non-listening, muddy, vengeful dialect of how we communicate. We want to listen. Convey. Answer questions. Don't jump over things, Don't assume. Don't have the conversation for the other person without even having the other person in the mix. We got to think about communication is what it is. It's like nobody's ever going to know what you feel, think, want, need, with all these things if you don't clearly communicate it. You can't just assume everybody should know. And that becomes the problem with romantic relationships. Well, yeah, we've been together 10 years. I think they pretty much know me. Don't assume that they just know you. We change, we evolve, we do things different. We form to be different people. We form to all of a sudden maybe need different things or want different things, or all of these situations. As we grow as human beings, well, our communication changes sometimes. It can go in different paths and directions. So don't ever assume that somebody should just know you, should just know what you're thinking. We're not mind readers. Nobody's a mind reader. So therefore, if I want to know how Marwan's thinking today or feeling today, I can't just assume, oh, well, this Monday I'm sure he's having a really shitty day because it's a Monday and we all started waiting. You can't do that. I would have to say, hey, Marwan, happy Monday, man. How are you? And then listen to his response. And now I have engaged in a normal stepping stone of a conversation. But we don't want to assume. And it's always better sometimes. I have people laugh at me about this, but it's okay if you ask a question. Like, a lot of people avoid asking questions because they think it's going to make them look stupid or something like that. Look, that's okay. You can treat me like I'm stupid sometimes because I'd rather ask you a question and have you look at me like, dude, you don't know the answer to this? No, it's okay. Pretend that I don't. Pretend that I don't know the answer, and now you just answer me. That's what helps build. Because as you start that practice and you do that with other people, well, you're teaching yourself to do it, but you're also teaching other people who communicate with you that that's what you're after, that that's what you're looking for, is open, clear communication. So yes, communicate clearly, everybody. Well, guys, I hope that you were able to pull something from this. I'm excited that we are starting off a brand new month, and I hope that we do something valuable, beautiful, lovely, healthy, energizing, elevating, and we build some new chapters into our life this month. I love seeing you guys down there. Thank you so much. Luis, Marwan, Deanna, Kimbrel. I think I still have... Oh, sorry, my thing. Jason, thank you guys so much for being here. And have a very blessed Monday. I will be back here tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. I hope to see you guys then. Until next time, be blessed, be happy, and most importantly, be you. Cheers.